Hey friend, welcome to the Healthy Christian Mother Podcast, a faith-fueled approach to health and wellness. Hey friend, welcome to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the episode earlier in the week where we were talking about Lent and using it as a turning point, a refocus point for our health, our wellness, our weight loss journey. And in that episode, I was talking about how Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. He was tempted by the devil to turn stone into bread. And it really got me thinking about fasting, because often some people will give up things for Lent, maybe try fasting. And I thought this would be a good opportunity as we're in this period of Lent. We've got about 3 weeks until Easter, and it might be something that you want to try to boost your weight loss, help your metabolism. So today's episode, I'm going to be talking about fasting for menopausal women. I'm going to be talking about the benefits, the risk, and also the best practices as well, because it's really important to remember there's a lot of information out there about fasting. I'm sure you've heard about it. There's a lot of products and things that can support you in your fasting, but it's really important to remember for us as women, and also for us as menopausal women, that fasting that maybe works for a man might not work for our bodies. So this really is a specific episode talking about fasting in relation to us as females, and also bearing in mind the changes that our bodies are experiencing as we're going through perimenopause. Before we get started, I'd really encourage you just to scroll down and check out the links in the show notes. If you find today's episode helpful and you're interested in trying fasting to see how it works for your body, I've put a really helpful link to a 7-day fresh start kit. It's a really good product that will help you to approach intermittent fasting safely with some really good science-backed nutritional products. In the 7-day kit, you're going to find 3 items. One of them is the morning matcha, which is going to help to support you during your fasting window. Your second product is a golden renewal protein, and you use this product to break your fast. And this is a high protein product that is really good at helping to maintain muscle mass. And there is a third product which is going to help to support your microbiome diversity. So as you're going through your fasting process, this is going to be really, really helpful to support what's going on inside your gut. The link to that product is in the show notes, and I've also put a 10% discount code especially for you. There is also the link to my website, wellnessandwellies.com, and you can contact me through my website if you have any questions around personal training, any of the products that I talk about on the podcast, and if you are interested in joining the Canicross course that starts after Easter, you can get more information there. Okay, my friend, let's talk about fasting, and specifically fasting for menopausal women. We're going to talk about the benefits, the risks, and how to go about doing it in the right way for your body. Because it's really important to remember that whilst fasting is really popular, it's very trendy, menopause is a challenging time for our body. It comes with a lot of hormonal changes that we know impact our metabolism, our weight, our energy levels, and our overall health. A lot of women like to try fasting as a way to manage some of these changes, to potentially lose weight as well. And fasting is suitable for menopausal women, but we need to go about it in a particular way to ensure that we are not putting our body under any more stress, because perimenopause and menopause is stressful enough. And it's always important to remember that for us as women, and this is the wonderful thing about being a woman, is God designed men and women very differently. Our bodies behave very differently. So I would really advise that if you are thinking about fasting, listen to today's episode. Maybe try the 7-day fresh start that I mentioned at the start of the podcast, because a lot of the tips that I'm going to share with you are really female specific, and those products are really designed to help and support you with intermittent fasting, which is a particular type of fasting that I really am going to talk about and dig into today. And it's one that is suitable for us to be doing as women. Now, I am going to, of course, add my caveat in here. I am not a medical practitioner. I am a personal trainer, a nutritionist. If you feel that you need particular detailed advice, I really encourage you to go and see a medical practitioner. Now, that all being said, let's talk about fasting. So what actually is fasting? Fasting is the practice of voluntarily abstaining from food. So that means we're voluntarily going without food for a period of time. Now, in some cases, you're also talking about beverages for a specific period, and it's something that has been used for centuries for religious health and cultural reasons. There are various different types of fasting, including intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, and extended fasting. Intermittent fasting really is one of the most popular methods, and it involves cycling between periods of eating and fasting. You really likely to have heard about intermittent fasting. I've tried it myself. I find it quite helpful. And intermittent fasting, you might often hear people talking about fasting such as the 16-8 method, which is where you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window. Some people do like a 12-12. That's something that's quite an easy thing to get started with. But ultimately, fasting can help regulate metabolism, promote cellular repair, and improve our overall health. And when it's done correctly, it really can be quite helpful. And when I say done correctly, what I mean is that doing and having an eating and a fasting window, but not to use your eating window as a time to eat foods that do not serve your body. And it is not a window to eat everything that you possibly can eat in your house. And it's also not an opportunity to eat junk food. Fasting combined with healthy eating is a really, really great thing. But it is not an excuse to deprive yourself from food and then eat really badly in your eating window. So I just want to make that really sort of clear distinction. And using products like the 7-day Fresh Start that I mentioned earlier alongside your fast to help your body to adjust and to support your gut is a really effective tool as well. And it can make your fast more effective. So let's talk about the benefits of fasting for menopausal women. There's quite a lot of benefits. So in my opinion, the first benefit of this is that it supports weight management. So we know when we are perimenopausal and menopausal that menopause can often bring weight gain due to hormonal shifts. Our metabolism slows, estrogen is declining, our body can become more insulin resistant as well. And intermittent fasting can help our body to regulate insulin levels and promote fat loss by enhancing the body's ability to turn stored fat into energy. Now, I did do a whole podcast episode around insulin resistance. It's worth just scrolling down a few episodes and going and having a look at that, because insulin resistance is something that our bodies are becoming more and more common for those of us that live in the Western world where food is very convenient and we have this huge reliance on carbohydrates. And I'm not sitting here and saying that carbohydrates are bad, but our diet is very, very carbohydrate heavy. Insulin, which our body uses to regulate our blood glucose levels, and our body can become resistant to insulin, and that can cause a bit of a nasty cycle. Now, from a personal perspective, I can really relate to that. I do feel that over time, I have built up a certain level of insulin resistance, and this 7-day fresh start product and intermittent fasting has been really helpful for me to kind of give my body like a bit of a reset. And if you're listening to this episode as it goes out, you've got about 3 weeks until Easter. And last time we were talking about using Lent as a period to, sort of address some of our health issues, to maybe sort of tackle some weight loss goals. So you've got 3 weeks. So you could do the 7-day fresh start and then have 2 weeks of intermittent fasting. And over those 3 weeks, you probably see some really interesting changes in your body and potentially some weight loss combined with some exercise and healthy eating. I always think like 3 weeks, things could look incredibly different. So number 2, fasting can help to balance blood sugar levels. Estrogen levels, as they're fluctuating and they're going up or down, again, can lead to insulin resistance. So this can increase the risk of diabetes. Fasting helps stabilize blood sugar by reducing insulin spikes and improving insulin sensitivity. That's quite an important thing, like having blood sugar level balance instead of this like riding the roller coaster. We can't always control our estrogen levels, but we can support our body with the foods that we're eating. And what we want to avoid are these insulin spikes, because it can lead to this ongoing cycle of spiking insulin, craving sugar, spiking insulin, eating and craving sugar. And that can be really, really unhealthy as well. So actually having a period where we're not eating can really help to reduce those insulin spikes, and our body goes into this mode of, okay, right, I'm going to go to the fat that's stored in my body to try and use that for energy, because your glucose levels are more stable. Okay, number 3, it boosts brain health. Now, our brain does use glucose for energy. So again, I'm not advocating like a carbohydrate-free diet by any means. But as we are going through perimenopause and menopause, we can experience cognitive changes. So you might experience things like brain fog, memory lapse, that whole going into a room and forgetting why you're there, or losing your keys. Like I have done that so often. And it's so common during menopause. Now, fasting can actually trigger something called autophagy. Now, this is a funny term, but ultimately, autophagy is a process that removes damaged cells and supports brain function. It also increases the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor as well, BDNF, which is a neuroprotection. So lots of benefits of fasting for your brain. And I think alongside fasting, having supplements and nutrients that are going to help your body as you go through this process is a really, really good idea. Now, number 4, fasting also enhances heart health. So after menopause, unfortunately, women are at a higher risk of heart disease. Now, fasting can help to lower blood pressure, it can help reduce cholesterol levels, and it can decrease inflammation. And these are all key factors in cardiovascular health. So if you can lower your blood pressure, if you can reduce cholesterol, you can decrease inflammation, then potentially it's going to support you to reduce the risk of heart disease. Number 5, it improves your gut health. We know how important our digestive system is to us, to everything really that goes on in our body. But if you're struggling with things like bloating, feeling sluggish, like your metabolism, and these are like common complaints during menopause, fasting actually allows your gut to rest. And that's a really important thing. And this rest promotes a healthy microbiome, which can enhance digestion. And again, this is why I keep talking about this 7-day fresh start, because within that kit is a supplement that you take every day that is going to help your gut. It's got some helpful bacteria which are going to help your gut as you go through your fasting process. So it's going to help your microbiome to be more diverse, which is a good thing. Okay, number 6, the final one, which I have touched on a little bit already, is that fasting can reduce inflammation. Now, chronic inflammation is linked to joint pain, autoimmune conditions, and metabolic disorders. So fasting can help to decrease inflammation by reducing oxidative stress, and it can promote cellular repair. Now, I am just going to tell you a little story about some inflammation and joint pain and things that I personally struggled with. And I came back from the physiotherapist yesterday who did a scan, the scan that you have when you have a baby. I had one of those scans on my hip because my hip had been causing me a lot of pain. I've lived with it for a long time, and I have had chiropractic care, really, really good, but didn't solve the problem. And I went to the physio and he did an ultrasound scan on my hip, and I could see on the scan that I'd got a tiny weeny build up in the joint of a gristly type cartilage thing, and there was inflammation in my joint, and that was causing me pain. So by fasting and thinking about what is going into my gut, which is then obviously going around my body, that is going to be something that I can do as I support myself, working with the physio to help to reduce the pain that I have in my hip and reduce this inflammation that is in my hip joint at the moment. And I'm 44 years old. I do not want to live with that kind of discomfort and pain for the rest of my life. I want to be the 80-year-old that's still climbing and hiking. Do you know what I mean? So thinking about these things now, as we're perimenopausal, as we're menopausal, potentially going to make us feel better right now in the moment, but also are going to increase longevity. And for me, that's something that's really important. So I'm going to be doing this 7-day fresh start as well. I encourage you to join me. We can do it together. I think it'll be really interesting to see the results that you have with that, but I know that that's going to be really, really helpful. Okay, so we've spoken about the benefits, but it's important to talk about potential risks and considerations. So number 1 is hormonal fluctuations. So fasting will impact your hormone level, which could be a concern for menopausal women who are already experiencing significant hormonal shifts. Some women may find that fasting worsens symptoms like hot flushes, mood swings, or fatigue. If you experience that, you need to maybe stop what you're doing and go and talk to your doctor. There are also concerns around bone health. So estrogen is a really important part of our body, but it also has an important role in maintaining bone density. So excessive fasting or nutrient deficiencies could contribute to bone loss and increase the risk of osteoporosis. Now, within the 7-day fresh start, there is a protein that you take that is going to be really, really great for your muscles. That's what you use to break the fast. But it's important to remember when you are eating, that you are eating healthy food that is going to serve your body. And this was why at the beginning of the podcast episode, I wanted to remind you that fasting isn't about deprivation. It's actually about rest. And when you are eating, it's about fueling your body with really, really good nutrients. And that leads on to the next one, which is about energy and nutrient intake. So of course, when you're restricting an eating window, you are not going to be consuming as many calories and ultimately nutrients as you might do normally. And this is why it's important not to restrict your eating window too much, because that could lead to inadequate calorie and nutrient intake. So that could potentially cause fatigue, muscle loss, or nutritional deficiencies, which is why actually this 7-day fresh start for 7 days fasting for 7 days is actually a really, really good way of introducing yourself to fasting, seeing how it works for your body. And it's not a huge amount of time, so it's not going to be detrimental to your overall health. Number 4 is an increased stress response. Now, fasting can activate the body's stress response, so it potentially can raise your cortisol levels. Now, if cortisol remains high, it could lead to weight gain, sleep disturbances, and increased anxiety. So that's why we need to be mindful of a couple of things when we're thinking about fasting, is how long we're doing it and how often we're doing it. And this is why intermittent fasting of this 16-8 window is very popular, or even a 12-hour fasting window as well. And that really does lead me on to this idea about best practice when it comes to fasting for us in menopause. So I really, really strongly suggest starting with a gentle fasting method. Intermittent fasting, using this 7-day fresh start, is absolutely the perfect way of doing it. So rather than diving into prolonged fasts, begin with a 12-hour fasting window. And it's one of the things I think that's quite interesting is you don't really realize how long you spend during the day eating. So if you as somebody that wakes up at 7 o'clock in the morning and wants to have breakfast, if you're doing a 12-12, then you need to make sure that you have stopped eating by 7 o'clock in the evening. And that really does make you kind of check yourself, because if you're somebody who is like a bit of a snacker when you're sat down watching TV, that's something you're going to have to stop. Because if you think about how long you actually spend during the day eating, then 12-12 is a really good point and a really good place to start. And then what you could potentially do is gradually extend it to 14 to 16 hours if you feel comfortable with that and if that's working. But actually, starting with a 12-12, if you are somebody who snacks in the evening, that is going to give your body rest. It's going to help to reduce those glucose sugar spikes that you have. It's going to help to reduce cortisol. It's going to give your body a chance to actually rest and for your food to work its way through your body. Okay, number 2, in terms of best practice, is prioritizing nutrient-dense foods. So you want to be focusing on protein, which is why in the 7-day fresh start, there is a protein supplement in there. Things like healthy fats, lots of fiber, micronutrients, things that can support your gut as well, and making sure that you are eating really good nutrient-dense foods in those windows where you are eating. Okay, number 3, staying hydrated, making sure that you are drinking plenty of water, herbal teas, and electrolyte-rich fluids to prevent dehydration and reduce fasting-related discomfort. And again, I know I keep talking about this 7-day fresh start, but it all just works so well together. So the matcha is a really, really great product to have when you're fasting. So if you wake up in the morning and you want to have something to drink, the matcha is a great option for that, and it's not going to break your fast. Okay, number 4, monitoring your symptoms and adjusting accordingly. So really tune in and pay attention to your body. So if it worsens your menopausal symptoms, consider modifying the amount of time that you are fasting. Think about a less restrictive approach and tweak it and work with it and see what works best for your body. Okay, number 5, combine fasting with strength training. So we know resistance training can help maintain muscle mass. Supplementing with protein, eating more protein in your diet obviously can help with your muscle mass as well, which is why the Fresh Start has this protein in it. But we know that resistant training helps muscle mass and bone density and can counteract potential fasting related muscle loss. So let me tell you how I go about doing this. I have to work out in the morning. I cannot eat before I work out because it makes me feel sick. So I normally wake up about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I will drink something that like matcha maybe, or an electrolyte drink, but something that hasn't got calories in it, that is a low enough calorie that it's not going to break my fast. I will then do a run on my treadmill, or I will do some strength training in my office / gym at home. And then I would then go and eat. So I'm normally eating food and breaking my fast about 7:30 in the morning, because I'm somebody who likes to eat breakfast. My body needs fuel after it's done a workout. So when I'm fasting, if I was doing a 12-12 fast, I would need to make sure that I'm not eating anything after 7 o'clock, 7:30. Now, if I was doing a 16-8, I would have to bring that forward probably to about like 3:30 in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So on those days where I want to maybe try like a 16-8, I'll eat a bigger meal at lunchtime, and then maybe have sort of like a protein shake, maybe about like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I'll stop eating until the next day. And that really does give your body like a really good rest for food. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like in our house. And I would say that I definitely do a 12-12 pretty much every day. It's really rare for me not to do a 12-12. Okay, final one. Make sure that you are getting enough sleep and managing your stress. So if you decide to do this 7-day fresh start, for example, I would really try and make sure that during those 7 days, you're not going out. You're really using those 7 days like to rest your body, to detox, to eat really nicely, to eat really nutrient dense foods, and use it as an opportunity maybe to do like some mindfulness, maybe some yoga, maybe go out on some really nice walks with your dog, just any kind of things that you can do to help like cortisol to remain like in check. And just use it as an opportunity, particularly during Lent, where it's very self-reflective time. You could do this 7-day fresh start and really sort of, spend some time journaling, spend some time in the Bible, really just like nurture yourself for 7 days. Feed yourself well, give yourself some good nutrients, and just see where you feel at the end of 7 days. It's not a huge amount of time, but it could be a massive benefit to your body. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope that it was maybe sort of gave you a bit of an insight into fasting, how it can help you, how it could help you, how it could help your hormones and your body. My opinion is that for us as menopausal women, we don't want to be putting too much strain on our body. So fasting can help by reducing the amount of time that we spend eating, so it gives our body and our gut a rest. My personal opinion is that we do not want to be doing huge long fasts. 16-8 is a really good way of doing it. Starting with a 12-12 and doing a 12-12 like I do every single day pretty much is a really good way of giving your body the benefits, but not having a huge infringement in your day-to-day life. So it can be a really valuable tool for us as menopausal women if we do it mindfully, if we are eating nutrient-dense food in our eating window, if we're supplementing with great products like the 7-day fresh start that I keep talking about. It really can be very beneficial for your weight. It can improve your metabolic health, cognitive support, but it's so important to listen to your body and avoid excessive restriction, because that is not going to help your body. It's going to put yourself under stress. And I would really advise, if you do have any health conditions, if you do have any concerns, is consult a healthcare professional before starting a fasting regime, because it's always good to check with them and make sure that it aligns with your individual health needs. I hope you found that helpful. I'm going to be getting myself another 7-day fresh start kit. I'm going to be going through that. I'll share some of my pictures and things over on Instagram and Facebook if you're interested. And yeah, I hope you found today's episode helpful. As always, if you have any questions, please scroll down in the show notes. You will find my website. You can contact me through the website. You can also book some one-to-one personal training sessions with me. So if you would like to maybe spend a month doing some personal training with me, you can book some personal training sessions through my website. And if you are interested in doing the Canicross Couch to 5K in April, you can find all the information there. I hope today was helpful. I hope you've enjoyed the 2 episodes this week. I'm thinking of you, I'm praying for you, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode.